Welcome to Outdoor Cats. Today is Thursday, April 17th. My name is Bill, as always. I'm joined by Chris Rabarge. Right at the top, we got to talk about, before I even ask you how you're doing, Chris. Before I even ask it, Rachel Manaras.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Rachel Manaras is leaving. Gone. Bye-bye. Very sad day for Worcester. The superintendent that got away, truly. We have not had a professional like that at the helm of the Worcester Public Schools in quite some time, maybe ever. Rachel, if you're listening, you will be missed sorely. The news broke today at about 2 p.m. And then I think at the school committee meeting, which is happening in a couple hours, by the time our listeners are listening to this, it'll have already happened, but they're going to talk about it live. So, yeah.
Yeah. If you're a listener to the show, you've heard us talk a bunch about the one shining star of competency in our municipal government, and the one beacon of a good example of how you go out and find a real professional for a professional's job, and do a real search and get yourself a good candidate and hire them. And we've had her for 3 years, and it seems to have gone very well. But Rachel seems to be preparing to move back to California to be closer to family. So good for her. Unfortunately, probably not very good for us.
Yeah. Wish Rachel the best, but the political considerations now become pretty wild, considering that there's a school committee race. There's a former superintendent on the school committee running for school committee again, Emery Minenda, and a general contest for the, I don't know what you want to call it, the spirit, the soul of the school committee, of the school system rather, going on that school committee. So it's gonna be something else, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it sounds like Bill, you gave me this news right as I got home, right before we started recording. I saw an article about it just very quickly. It seems like Rachel is leaving the district effective essentially at the end of the school year, so June.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of months, and then presumably there will be an interim superintendent appointed for the period of time after that in June, while we are in the midst of a school committee race that feels very up in the air as far as sort of which contingency or set of factions is going to have a voting majority on the school committee. So yeah,
right.
things feel pretty up in the air and weird.
Things are thinging. Things
Indeed,
are thinking constantly.
Yeah, we sure needed more things thinging. It's not like there's just not enough happening right now.
Yeah, there definitely isn't. It's not like, it's like we were just dicking around all this week. What are we going to talk about? There's nothing going on, nothing to talk about. We didn't take extensive notes and prepare an entire show on a completely different topic or anything like that. We're just like, oh, great, now we have something to talk about. Superintendent is out the door. But no, what we were planning to talk about, and what we're still going to talk about, is the absolutely buck wild public safety subcommittee meeting on Tuesday, scheduled conveniently 1.5 hours before they would have to vacate the room to allow the full council to come in and talk about how to punish the colleges.
Yeah. What a creative way to set a hard end to your meeting. I like it.
Yeah. The first time that like the chief in a subcommittee setting where you can get a lot more conversation done. The first time that the chief was in that setting, he gets an hour and a half to talk about the Department of Justice report into the Worcester Police Department, and that's it. the way the meeting went is, so this committee is chaired by Kate Toomey. Mo Bergman is the sort of second in command, and Louis Ojeda is the rookie on the board. Louis Ojeda didn't say a word and looked frankly bummed to be there.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. I really wanted to. I put it in our notes, but I really wanted to set the scene here of what this looked like, because we're going to talk about it. And if you didn't watch it, and I don't blame you if you didn't, but Bill and I have watched this probably more times than either of us would care to admit. And yeah, to set the scene in the room, you have a table in the middle of the city council chamber. Sitting at the table facing where the audience would be are the three members of the Public Safety Standing Committee that Bill just mentioned. Sitting on the other side of that table with his back to the audience, close enough that they could probably reach across the table and hold hands, which I'm sure is a thought that has crossed Kate's mind more than 0 times, is the chief of police. So you have this weird dynamic where you have 3 people sitting facing the public, someone sitting directly in front of them at this long but narrow table with their back to the audience, and then the audience of people who showed up for this meeting that are behind them. And yeah, Louis is there, really looking like a third banana in this whole process. As you mentioned, I really don't think he spoke. I mean, he did not actually speak definitively. He did not speak in any capacity. He didn't make any kind of statement or anything. I don't actually know that he said a word of any kind. Kate, throughout this meeting, is sitting somewhere between straight ahead facing the chief and sort of tilting to her right, talking to Mo. Louis is very much a third wheel on this date, or a fourth wheel on this.
Fourth wheel on this 3-way date. Yeah. Episode title. But yeah, so the chief, Kate Toomey gives the chief the floor right away, basically. To chief, what do you think? And the chief had approximately 50 minutes of thoughts. This is definitely a pre-orchestrated thing where the chief went through line by line of the report and the response to it already published. A lot of it is really boring, not worth getting into, but there are some parts that we should really sit with for a minute. But first, I think that I have it queued up here. I think we should listen to how Kate opened the meeting.
Yeah, the tone and tenor of this entire meeting is set by Kate Toomey, and it is set early and it is set often.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. And we also have some folks in the audience, so thank you very much. We've all seen the report, and I think this is a great opportunity for the chief to talk about some of the things that he has found of interest and issue with. And so we'll start with you, Chief.
I think it is a great opportunity for the chief to talk about some of the things that he has found issue with this report. So
yeah,
right away, we know what we're getting into here. This is our public safety subcommittee, which is in theory holding the police department accountable in some way. Although we'll get to that. The end of the meeting, there's sort of different definitions of what police accountability is bandied about. But from there, it goes to, or does Kate talk more? Oh, wait. No, Kate talks more. We got to listen to the rest of it.
Through the chair.
Oh, no,
again, this is a lengthy report. It's on the agenda. I'm sure everyone has it. This is basically.
Okay. So no, that's all Kate said. She's the chairwoman of this meeting. She opens it up by just basically saying Chief is yours. Floor is yours, Chief. Go ahead. Criticize the report.
Yes, specifically, floor is yours, Chief. Say whatever you want, but tell us about the things that you found of interest and the issues that you found with this report that is critical of the department that you now run, that we're supposed to be overseeing, except maybe we're not supposed to be.
Right. Yeah.
We'll get to that.
We will get to that. I can't wait for that part. But yeah, so the chief goes through line by line. I guess we'll just sort of look through here. We're not going to like play the whole thing, but there are definitely some interesting moments to pull out. Let's see here. We have the bite ratio that was discussed. We discussed that in our last show on the DOJ report with John and Tom. But he talks about the Tufts University report that determined that the department's bite ratio is 13.7%, which is well below the justified bite ratio of the determined in like I'm just gonna have him say this part. This idea of there being a justified ratio of how often police dogs bite people is so weird, and it's all from this one weird case that he brings up, one weird lawsuit to determine how often police dogs can bite people.
Yes, a Florida man lawsuit.
This study determined that the department's bite ratio of 13.7% is well below the justified bite ratio, which is discussed in case law of Kerr versus City of West Palm Beach. And
everyone knows, Kerr versus City of West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
How could you not know about that lawsuit?
Who here is not up on your bite ratios? Because stop this podcast and go get educated. Yeah.
So we're getting like he spends the beginning of his soliloquy, I guess we'll call it, Saussier's soliloquy, the soliloquy of Saussure. Saussier's there's something there. I'm workshopping it, but there's something there. Going like sort of line by line through the report, taking issue like with sort of like quibbling things. Chris, I'm wondering if there's anything from this part of the report that stuck out to you as like significant.
Yeah, I have some notes here that I wanted to just sort of talk through a few of.
Sure.
One of the first things he talks about is the sort of the breadth of what's covered in the report. And he talks about it first in the capacity of vice arrests. And so he says during the period of the report, which I believe is about 5 years that they looked at, there were 2,465 vice arrests. 365 of those arrests were for prostitution-related charges, and 99 of those arrests were of women. He actually uses this, if I remember correctly, as a data point to underscore that they are focusing their enforcement efforts on demand, or on Johns, as people call them, and not on the women. But that's 99 women who were arrested. That's not like a small number. I would say that's probably a pretty substantial number of the women who do sex work or prostitution in the city of Worcester. I don't know that number, but I would say it's 99 would be a substantial portion of it.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing to think about, because like there's ways of manipulating the data to tell the story you want it to, and if they just did like not the number of arrests, but the number of individual women arrested, then like 99 might just be like every one.
Yeah.
Right. But they've all been arrested 7 or 8 times. Who knows? But that's a very good point. That that's like, and there's a number of instances throughout this where he's using that sort of argument of like they're overblowing this to like make a point that he kind of makes the opposite point. Like they're still like arresting women for prostitution. 100 arrests in 5 years is like a good amount of arrests.
Yeah. No, absolutely. On this related topic, there is also a point where the chief talks about how they're moving to, or have already moved to, more usage of the common nightwalker statute. And the quote that he says is, there will never be another opportunity. There will never be an opportunity in the Worcester Police, as far as I'm here, for an officer to have been alleged to have done anything because they're not getting in the car. I know that quote is a little weird. It is verbatim.
Right.
That's how he said it. But yes, there is also this idea now that we're not going to. It's really kind of framed in this way of we're not going to imperil officers to be put in the position to have complaints made against them because we're not going to let women get in the car with them. We're going to find a way to arrest them that doesn't involve that happening.
Right. Like the difference between what they're doing now and what they were doing is that the common nightwalker statute allows them to arrest or apprehend, whatever, detain someone without them having to get into the car and make some sort of contact or like make an offer or the buy or whatever. But I pulled up the quote where he says this because there's a lot to like sort of untangle in the framing of this. And it comes back later in a very big way, but it's basically like saying that we won't be falsely accused ever again. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll play it.
There will never be an opportunity in the Worcester Police, as far as I'm here, for an officer to have been alleged to have done anything because they're not getting in the car. So that's done.
There you go. Case closed. Problem solved. We're just going to restitute. Hey, a restitute. Fucking dumbass. Arrest prostitutes in a slightly different way. So, no case closed. You know what? I guess now is a good point to talk about the overall sex assault stuff because like the sketchy way of arresting street prostitutes was a component of the sex crimes allegation in the DOJ report, but it wasn't the thing. The thing was systematically and serially raping prostitutes. Like that was like the sort of the big flashy main item of the report. And the way that he talks about that, do you remember this, Chris? He talked at length about how officers get impersonated.
Yes.
By Johns, which is that's a crazy way to explain that one away.
Yeah, I actually have a note on that. He talks about these incidents as quite possibly being a result of Johns that pose as cops as a way to get out of paying for the sex that they agreed to pay for. He uses a specific example of like, oh, we arrested this one guy and he had a Crown Vic and he had an ID from wherever. But yeah, no, this is the chief's operating conspiracy theory. It seems is that man, it's like hard to get your head around this, and if you're hoping that the people running this standing committee will like dig in or get some clarity around any of this, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that will not be happening at any point.
No, it will not.
Despite its best efforts, WPD has been unable to follow up with any of the respondents about their allegation and has no information about the identity of the women surveyed. The officers alleged to have engaged in misconduct, the date, time, or location of the alleged misconduct, or any specific information that would allow it to fully investigate the allegations without the involvement of the anonymous respondents. And let me just say, within the last year, officers, there's, again, you need specific complaint information for any type of comprehensive investigation. And unfortunately, it's not uncommon for members of the public to impersonate police officers during interactions with women engaged in commercial sex trade in order to avoid paying for their services.
Pause. Okay, so even if this is true, where would they have learned that move?
Yeah.
But it's not true. They're just cops.
Citation needed, Chief.
I have never once in my life heard that before, and I pay pretty close attention to this stuff. That's not something that's ever come up, but it is a very interesting way to explain this away.
Yes. Yeah. It is something to say, it is not uncommon for men to impersonate police officers, to get out of paying for sex. And that's probably who was sexually assaulting women, and the women thought that the person doing it was a police officer.
Right.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, and you know what? It doesn't actually counter the narrative in the report either.
No.
Because in the one instance that I pulled out and really, well, there's two instances where this directly it doesn't make sense if you think about it hard, which I think the chief is relying on nobody to do, and certainly not the anybody on the public safety subcommittee is going to do that. But the way that one of these stories opened is that the officer was on duty and harassing the girls from his squad car, and then came back in an unmarked car. So it's easy to do a lot of things in America. It is very hard to drive around in a squad car and not catch an impersonating police charge. Like, you're gonna know it's a squad car from looking at it.
My extensive late night research on YouTube has shown me that one of the things that the police hate the most is people who impersonate police. So I have a feeling we would know if there was an epidemic rather, of people driving around in fake police cars pretending to be police. But also, let's just take another step back on the smell test on this. Not that you or I or anyone listening to this obviously have ever done anything illegal, like bought drugs or anything like that. But in the scenario where you are the customer in an illicit transaction, are you generally trying to convince the person, the seller, that you are a cop or that you are not a cop?
In my experience, I have tried to generally avoid coming off as a cop when doing something illegal. Not that I ever have done anything illegal in my life, but yeah, it seems to me that you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah. In theory here, were I making some sort of illicit transaction, my energy is going to be, I'm not a cop, not I am a cop, and that's going to let me steal sex or steal drugs. Like, it's kind of an insane premise when you tease it out, which is why I wanted to.
Right. And like, so I think the point that he's making, even if you take it at face value, is also counterproductive, because there's a huge conceit buried in there that cops don't pay for sex. right? Like they're impersonating cops because it gets them free sex. Meaning, what does that mean for a cop who's not impersonating a cop, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very weird conspiracy theory to run with because it tells the entire story like in the subtext, but he advances the conspiracy theory in a major way in his next line.
For example, within the last year, officers arrested an individual driving a decommissioned unmarked police vehicle or a vehicle modified to resemble an unmarked police vehicle that had a state police sticker as well as a police-style antenna on the back. The individual was also found to be carrying a wallet that had Mass State Police insignia as well as a police badge. This particular individual had a prior arrest for sex for a fee and a past reported sexual assault allegation.
As if to say, there's your guy.
Right.
But,
We got him.
But he doesn't say that this person was arrested in the process of soliciting sex by using the state police sticker and badge that he was carrying. I mean, carrying the badge is a big deal, but where to get the badge?
Yeah.
He doesn't say any of that. He
No.
just conflates the two. He's like, and he also, at some other point in his long criminal career, caught a sex for a fee charge.
I have a question for you, Bill.
Yeah.
How would you define this quote? A vehicle modified to resemble an unmarked police vehicle. How would you describe what that is? Would you maybe describe that as just a vehicle? Like any vehicle?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Modified to resemble an unmarked police vehicle. It's just so crazy. But we should move now, I think, to the way that Kate Toomey talked about it. We're jumping around a little bit, but do you remember this when she was like, thank you for saying no officer would ever do that.
Yeah.
Right. So, which is just so gross because there were like multiple instances in this report, and one of them involved like a trip to the hospital with an ambulance with EMS workers. So like that's not a situation that you can fake. You can't fake being an off-duty cop around EMS and stuff. But
Right.
So this is the way that Kate talks about that conspiracy theory that Saucier promulgated after he's sort of done with his entire hour-long speech. Kate Toomey has the opportunity to speak, and her fourth line is,
And again, the terrible accusations, especially with the sexual assault issues, impacted the entire department. And I appreciate you saying that not one officer here would be willing to allow that to happen. So I think that's very important, that people know that. You hold your officers to a high standard, the highest of all, in yourself as well. And I think that the public should feel comfortable with that because you know that you're being looked at and you want to make sure that you're providing the best police department that possibly could be.
that is insane. The deferential sort of thank you for giving me this conspiracy theory with which to explain away the worst part of the report is really, really sickening to hear that from the chairwoman of public safety. I mean, like when we talked to John, our last episode on this, there are women with stories who are deadly afraid of speaking out.
Yep.
And Kate says, thank you for reassuring us this never happened.
And
Crazy.
Bill, play out the rest of this sentence.
Oh, right. Yeah, so she says, make sure you're providing the best police department that could possibly be.
Sure that you're providing the best police department that possibly could be. But harm was done to the members of our department and their families by some of this.
Yes. Thank you. Let's remember, everybody, I know we get deep in the weeds on this. We get bouncing around. It's hard to see the forest for the trees, but let's remember who was harmed by, the information in this report. It was Worcester police officers and their families.
Right. No one else.
That's what DOJ was trying to tell us. They were trying to tell us that, there's harm being done here to cops and their families.
Yes. I mean, it's just it's like, in the way that she uses the term our department versus the people that the department polices as the other, but it's our department, our officers, our families. And these are Worcester residents who have made these accusations. And these are Worcester residents with very good reason to not put their name or their face to any of these allegations. Life or death reason. That's only a little bit of an exaggeration, if it is at all.
Yeah, Kate's tone and tenor with this really reminds me of, like, I'm a sports guy. I know you're not, but I try not to be a certain kind of sports guy, and a certain kind of sports guy that I try to avoid are the people that refer to a sports team that they follow as as if you're on the team. Red Sox, we gotta get some better hitters out there. And it's like, you're not on the Red Sox. Like, Kate Toomey, you're not a Worcester cop.
Yeah.
You're not on the department. You are in a different role in the city government. And what is supposed to be a very important role in the city government of oversight over the police department. You're not a cop, Kate.
Yeah. The fact that Mayor Petty puts this person in this role, really is the skeleton key to unlocking everything wrong with city government, because the stated reason for this thing even existing, for there to be subcommittees tasked to departments, is for oversight of those departments. Oversight means something. Oversight has a definition. It means holding people accountable. It does not mean thank you so much for lying to me, right? That is not oversight. But we keep teasing it, but we will have to spend a good amount of time on their definitions of oversight later. But there's some other stuff to get to. First. Oh, one thing I really want to get to, which is the first thing that Kate brings up after the chief speaks. Or not the first thing, but among the first things, this spurious allegation the chief throws out into the ether that the report was compiled by college students.
You might have thought we were done with conspiracy theories, folks.
No,
you were wrong. We got a doozy here.
Yeah, so we'll say conspiracy theory number one. There are vigilante raper cops running around. We've covered that one. Conspiracy number two has to deal with who, in fact, did the report. Was it lawyers employed by the Department of Justice in the Massachusetts office who have spent the past 2 years digging through police files, taking complaints? Or is it a couple college students? That is what the chief alleged here at one point. All right. So here it is, about halfway through the chief's address on this. He goes, and another thing, right?
And another factor is the people who, I got a call from a Harvard student who said she edited the DOJ report and wanted to do an interview. The people looking at the videos were actually interns. So interns were doing it. I don't know how extensive, because I never could get an answer, but the interns looking at the video, and they also, this one from Harvard called me or emailed Lieutenant Murtha and said she wanted an interview because she edited the report.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So,
she was the editor of the report. Right.
Again, this comes down to the reasonableness of another police officer in the same situation.
Just one second, could you repeat that there were student interns that were editing this and that were involved in this, the preparing of this report?
I mean, this stuff is so rehearsed, right?
This is like the only time I think during the bulk of his testimony that she interjects immediately, almost as if she knew it was coming and was ready.
She was like, "Can you say this one more time so I'm sure the telegram hears it?" Right? Yeah. So then the chief answers her, and you can't see it because this is an audio podcast, obviously, but the look on Kate's face while she's doing this, she's just so giddy she's just relishing in putting forward this idea that there were students involved in the preparing of this report, which is an exaggeration even on what the chief said. Take for granted that he's right about this, even though he's repeating information that he got second or third hand. There was some
he literally in about 15 seconds goes from saying he got a call to saying Sean Murtha got an email.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she called me. Hey, this one from Harvard called me, or emailed Lieutenant Murtha. Come on, dude. Which one is it? Are you remembering something specifically, or are you trumping this thing up? But then Kate Toomey's like, "Oh, I know exactly my talking point for the next fucking decade about this DOJ report. There were students the students made the report." I mean, that's just that's the sort of dumb hook that will stick with our cranks for forever.
Yeah, it's exactly what they needed.
And that's Kate's political animal. She knows exactly what it is and why it's needed, you know?
It feels like they think they just got the Panama Papers or something, but I don't know. Has anyone ever been an intern? And interned somewhere? This is what they have you do. They didn't write the report. They give you the rote shit work that there's a ton of. Hey, watch 80 hours of this video and notate it for us. That's what interns do. And then the people who actually work at DOJ take that information and make a report out of it. I don't understand how that is controversial in any way, shape, or form. Unless you try to turn it into Harvard students have taken over the DOJ or something. I really don't understand what they're getting at here.
Right.
But they think they've alighted upon something absolutely groundbreaking.
Right, exactly. Let's listen to the rest of this exchange to see for some more clues on how they plan to contextualize this.
When we give out, I'm sorry, to the chair. When we give out information on body cams, there's our software called evidence.com. We have to give people permission to use it. And the permission of the person who was using it was an intern.
Oh my God.
After this report was released.
Okay, that's the third different way he has described stumbling upon this information, right? The student didn't reach out to him, didn't reach out to Sean Murtha through an email. They got an automatic ping from evidence.com, which evidence.com,
I love that.
evidence.com. Are you is all of our evidence stored on like a for-profit companies like like corporate servers? What the hell is evidence.com?
I must know more. I wish I'd bought that URL.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll do evidence.org and start siphoning off some of this business. But now he's saying that they have to give permission. Like if you share a Google Doc, you have to, instead of restricted, you make it anyone can view the link. So, okay. So which one is it? Right. The story gets thinner by the day. It basically what it's coming down to now is just that the Department of Justice has interns. That this isn't anything about editing the report at all. This is someone requested to view one piece of body camera footage that had like a .intern something on the email, and and Sean Murtha was like, "Aha! I gotta go straight to the chief with this one.
Take this straight to the chief's desk."
Right. So actually, that's the next thing that Chief Saucier explains. He gives us the narrative of how he came to came to know this information.
Let me stop you there for a second, Bill, because I gotta age check something here. I think you're probably a little too young for this, but this made me think of I am 43. Spoiler alert to anyone who was unsure about my age. So I am of that unique era of people who came of age exactly as the internet was like becoming popularized. I remember the world before the internet, as the internet sort of began, and I live now in the world with the internet. And I'm bringing all of this up because a thing that I remember about the very, very early internet was that the surest way to find porn was to use to go to websites like whitehouse.com or nasa.com. Those were like some of the first porn sites, because those were obviously like they were .govs, but enterprising individuals bought the .coms and turned them into repositories of pornography. I don't know how that relates to evidence.com. I'm going to pull it up in my browser later and we'll
see if it's still
what
there.
Happens from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Evidence.com, man, that's just something else.
Evidence.com.
I mean, we do have to do an entire episode on Hexagon, folks, the new evidence.com that the Worcester Police is contracting out. But that's, for now, that's neither here nor there. It just goes to show that like this is not a very sophisticated operation that they're running. If they're pulling their body camera footage down off the cloud of something called evidence.com. But this is the chief continuing here about how it is he came to find out that the editor of the DOJ report was an intern. And the use of the word editor in editing is crazy because that has connotations of like them being in control of it, right?
Yes.
But that's very clearly not what's happening here, because they literally, it's just one person requested to see one piece of footage.
When we give out, this report was released, Lieutenant Murtha come up to me and said, "Hey, we got a request for an interview." It was a student from Harvard who said she interned for the DOJ and wanted to do a follow-up because she edited the report.
That's literally contradicts the last
So
thing you
this
said.
report
but-
that was so important, so scathing, and actually put a black mark on our department, was not done just by professional attorneys and people in law enforcement, the DOJ. It included students and interns.
To the chair, that's correct. That's the information we have. I don't know the extent of what they did. I believe we tried to get answers to that and couldn't.
When was the last time you had communication, Chief?
Real good night and good luck hours here. You know.
That is the most scrutiny In fact, if you went through this with a fine-tooth comb and you pulled out every sort of question statement or request for more information from the chief, this is one of the only examples coming from a city councilor. Was just to go, oh, there are students. Oh, you gave me a nice, salacious sounding attack line that I can run with.
You mean to tell me that this report that was so important and so scathing actually put a black mark on our police department? It wasn't just done by professional attorneys and law enforcement. There were students.
We gotta. So it this just keeps getting better. So I'm gonna, and then the chief goes, that's the information we have, which is like such a cop way to say, we have a tiny and spurious bit of information that might say that, right? That's the information we have. I don't know the extent of what they did. So like literally they're basing this off of just, they got either one email or had one permission request to review footage from somebody who might be an intern. And we don't even know that. Maybe they had like a harvard.edu email address and they were like, look, a college student, but it could have well been like a criminal justice professor. Like, you never know. But we're definitely not going to get more information about that without spending months and months prying it out of the police department via like public records lawsuits, which is just frankly not worth it. This whole thing is just bullshit.
Yeah, no, but taking them at their word. Let's take them at their word. There are students and interns who worked on the report. No shit. Like, have you ever, I don't know, I've worked on reports before, and I've, worked on white papers and things like that. The people who do the grunt work of that stuff are always students and interns. Like, that's who you send to whatever the evidence.com is of the context that you're in and be like, yeah, go pull all those files and go like sit in a closet somewhere for 40 hours and listen to all this stuff and pick out the things that sound important for me, the next person up the chain, to listen to.
Right.
That's how this stuff gets done. Like,
it's not salacious even a little bit. But like to that point, we gotta keep playing this clip. So Kate goes, when was the last time you had communication with the DOJ?
When was the last time you had communication, Chief, with the DOJ?
To the chair, just prior to U.S. Attorney Levy retiring.
So that was a few months ago.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt,
no
but I
problem.
just had to take a step back because I was appalled.
And to the chair, what I'm doing is just give you a couple incidents, and then you can tell why the police came out the way they did, because none of this, in my opinion, if you're going to make an allegation, put the whole allegation out there. Don't give 2 lines to the newspaper or in the report that people cannot read through. They cannot grasp what happened in these situations without looking at the whole incident report. So if we go to...
You can't grasp the whole situation without looking at the whole incident report, which we write most of the time.
Yeah.
And we have been found to frequently lie in those incident reports. We're not you can't just put something out there without us being able to lie about it first. That's not how the media is supposed to work. The media is supposed to take our press releases and just put them on their websites, so that we lie basically with impunity. Because we know the media is never going to cover the discovery period of any criminal trial.
and also, again, I think to like get back to the main point of like why this is important, right? Like why this meeting is important and the way that it went down is important. Kate Toomey is interrogator, the questioner here, and she says to the chief, like, I'm appalled at this report that I'm supposed to be interrogating you about because I don't students or something. I think I really just want to underscore like the tone of the relationship between these two people. This is not an adversarial setting in the sense that like someone is asking, well, to quote Mo Bergman later, probing questions,
yeah,
and getting answers.
So actually, we should move to that part of the meeting, I think.
I have one before we get into the end part, though.
Yeah.
And that is the canine search of the condemned building.
Oh yeah. When I first read the report, I was like, it stood out to me, like, oh, a police dog bit a woman who is sleeping, like.
But basically, so like what the chief winds up saying, if I remember it correctly, is that they released the dog because the reasonings were that there have been 69 separate calls for service at this address, including a bunch in the last month, that it has an attic, and because that cop had gotten shot and killed by someone hiding in an attic. So because this house also had an attic, that meant they had to release the police dog.
Yeah. Let me find that. So it's a condemned building. The owner wants to go in it, and this is the chief's reasoning for sending a dog in before any human being.
The owner wants to go in it. He's asking for assistance. The responding officer decided to search the building with the aid of a canine for officer safety. This decision was made for three main reasons. First, the officers understood from the property owner that a crime had been and was still being committed. Second, the officers had conducted searches of this particular building prior to this incident, since they were called there over 60 times prior to this incident, and were aware that the building posed an extreme tactical disadvantage to officers. Third, the officers were aware that the building had an attic space, and in that, just a few weeks prior to this incident, another officer in Massachusetts was shot and killed, and his canine was shot while searching an attic in similar circumstances. The anniversary of that officer's murder was last week. The canine officers shouted an announcement: Worcester Police Canine, make yourself known, the dog will find and may bite you. This officer made 11 announcements at 5 strategic locations.
This dog will find and may bite you. Let's keep in mind here, like the circumstances, because the chief is using cop speak to talk about like the tactical disadvantage or whatever, and that he's saying that there had been a crime committed. The crime committed was the squatting, that someone had broken in and destroyed property and trespassed and resisted arrest. Resisting arrest means whatever anyone wants it to mean at any given time. Literally, it's not like there was some crime over and above getting into this building to sleep there, right?
Yeah, yes. So that's kind of what I really wanted to underscore with this clip is that, well, there's two things. One is that the scenario we have here is one that I think people are probably familiar with if you've ever had like a vacant or abandoned property in the neighborhood that you live in, and people break into it to have a place to shelter. And it seems like that's what was happening with this property. So what we have is a crime is being committed. The crime that's being committed is breaking into an abandoned property to have a place to sleep with a roof over your head.
Yeah.
Then the other reason that they needed to have a dog is because in another place that also had an attic, a cop and a cop dog got shot at.
Yeah.
So I guess anytime they are going into a situation where there's an attic, you got to get the dog out because, like, you know, something completely different happened in a completely different place. And yeah, I couldn't help but notice the thing that the chief is doing here is kind of exactly what they accuse DOJ of doing. So they say, you know, oh, Department of Justice, you come in, you look at these incidents, but you don't look at the totality and the context of the report. You find what you want to find, and then you work backwards from there. But that's what the chief does here. He talks about one of the charges being resisting arrest. Resisting arrest, outside of the way you've already talked about it, doesn't come up until the point that they find that there is a person to arrest.
Right.
To that point, that crime is not on the table. They don't even know anyone is in the building for sure. And they've got a dog out going around looking to bite people. You can't say, oh, the dog was justified because of resisting arrest when you didn't even know the person was there until the dog found them.
Right. And resisting arrest can be like the cops can use that for anything. If you wiggle too much while being apprehended, they'll be like, you're resisting, and just slap it on. It's like disorderly conduct.
If you're getting bit by a cop dog and you try to not get bit by a cop dog, you're resisting arrest.
Exactly. And to just like what we're doing right here is more scrutiny, more oversight of the police department than anything anybody on this subcommittee did. And because they throughout the entire thing, we only have Kate Toomey interjecting, and she only interjects at moments where it's beneficial to the chief. And it's like she's so happy to be coddled in this warm blanket of a highly selective and self-serving interpretation of the report that is focusing on individual trees at the expense of the forest for a certain fact, 100%. But he's the chief of police. He's the chief of the department accused of all this stuff. Right. What else do you expect from him? That's what you need. That's what you need rigorous oversight for. You need city councilors making those points, asking those questions. And that's exactly so after the chief's done, Kate speaks, and then Mo Bergman gives the floor to the public before he speaks. He wants to speak after the public speaks.
Yep.
First person to speak, of course, David Webb, and he was annoying. Whatever. I really don't want to focus on that guy. It's not important. Second person to speak is John Keogh. He makes great points. Third person to speak is Tom Marino. I mean, John Keogh and Tom Marino, we had him on the pod. They have been following this DOJ report closer than anybody. And at the end of Tom's address, which we should play a clip of, that's when shit starts going off the rails. And this is when we get some candid takes on Kate Toomey and Mo Bergman's interpretation of what the Public Safety Subcommittee is supposed to be doing. And meanwhile, Louis Ojeda is just sitting there in a tortured silence.
Poor Louis.
Here's a good place to start.
So the total lack of taking any responsibility for being at this point by anybody in city government is stunning. We talked a lot about the cases we have a problem with, but nobody wants to talk about the cases that are on video. We don't talk about those publicly because we're engaged in a propaganda campaign here to denigrate the federal government. None of this is true. It's all a lie. It's all a big deep state Biden conspiracy. Nonsense. We've all heard these stories before for years upon years. Some of them came into this chamber to tell you, beg you to intervene, and you scoffed and rolled your eyes. Time after time after time. Now we're so patriotic in this chamber that the DOJ has launched a conspiracy. It's unbelievable, the lack of accountability. Stunning. And it's not hard to see how we got here when this committee in a decade hasn't had one item about discipline before it. Not one.
That's not this committee's role.
What is your role then? What is your role, right? What is it you
Yes.
do? Do you just invite the chief 3 times a year to come and tell you whatever the fuck he wants to, and then you fluff him up and you say thank you? Because that's what you've been doing. But let's let this exchange continue to play out. That's not this committee's role. It's so sassy about it, like she knows, right?
You don't look at policy, and you can't issue a chairperson's order to ask the city manager you can't request things
It's
to
not
happen, like you
this-
do with every other department but the police department.
It is not this committee's role to micromanage the
Micromanage.
running of the police department.
It's not this committee's role to micromanage the running of the police department. How many times have we heard that this same person and this same set of people talk about something like leaf pickup or recycling, right? These tiny squibbling, like micromanagerial things. Mill Street, for Christ's sake. The
Yeah.
bike lanes on Mill Street.
Plowing,
Yes.
garbage.
I mean, Tom
recycling.
Marino was so right to say that every single department besides the police department has micromanagerial oversight from the city council, especially where it impedes on residents' quality of life, except for the police department, which does the most impeding. It's just not on people they know or people that typically vote, right? But I mean, we'll just play the rest of
Yeah,
this.
let it roll, man.
No, okay. Looking at a report or looking at internal investigation procedure is not, or policy is micromanaging. It happens with every other department, but not the police department, because that's in some people's electoral interests.
Thank you for your opinion.
29 months, no red flags went off. We know that the pre-investigation began at least 11 months earlier. You'd think when you learn that, well, they looked at this for 11 months and then they lost an investigation. That's bad. Maybe we should do something. But no, what did City Council do? Sat on its hands and waited for the investigation. Well, now it's here. They wouldn't have investigated there wouldn't have been an investigation if they weren't going to find anything, because that's kind of how DOJ works. And we've still now, for another 5 months, have done nothing. Nothing. We're going to wait for a report from the Research Bureau on the thing that you will oppose, that I believe probably 2 members of this committee will oppose.
Correct.
And we won't do that.
So yeah, what he's talking about there is the sort of main push now becomes for a civilian review board, which we can save our full thoughts on that for when we get the proposal from the Research Bureau and the city manager, if we do.
Sure, but Tom is saying, I think correctly, that Kate Toomey and Mo Bergman definitely will not vote in favor of a civilian review board. That is an opinion that I share.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty objective fact. And Kate Toomey is on record saying as much in recent memory. She has said, I don't think civilian review board is the way to go. It's another layer of oversight or bureaucracy.
Yes.
Yeah, right. She says,
Can't have that.
no, can't have that. That's not what I've wrapped my entire identity around or anything. But Tom continues here.
And so what you've done is you've changed leadership out, put a new leader, a good man, who I have publicly supported, into a structure that's already failed. Because you don't want to do anything.
That's your opinion. Thank you.
What have you done? I'll take all your accomplishments to help reform the police department.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
So done. Thank you.
What have you done? Thank you.
I'll take all your accomplishments.
Yes, give me one thing you've done, and all she can say is thank you. So he goes, okay, so none. Right. And then Kate Toomey tries to sort of end the conversation there because things got a little bit too spicy for her.
I think we've had a chance
Consider
to
matters
speak.
pertaining. And then this fucking guy, it's just obnoxious and grating. I can't listen to it. So David Webb challenges the chair's rule, which leads to Mo Bergman, and we don't have to get into it, but the issue here is not the way that Kate Toomey is running the meetings or the rules. The issue is a cultural one of political allegiances and the deference to power of the police department. You can't just be like, oh, well, if you just follow the rules, then the rules would work like whatever. It doesn't work that way. Like they're doing this because they want to. They're not overseeing the police department because they don't want to oversee the police department. It's not a matter of squibbling on policies and you'll get nowhere by doing that. But anyway, so David Webb is annoying for a little bit, and then Mo Bergman follows it up with this, which is like the best line of the whole meeting.
Counselor Bergman?
Yeah, it's disappointing. This is, instead of asking probing questions, this is turned into political statements.
Says the guy who has not asked one probing question. He has been silent the entire meeting. He has not asked a single probing question. And I've watched every public safety subcommittee meeting. The guy does not ask probing questions. And he just heard Tom Marino ask a bunch of really good probing questions. And because it was followed up by just fucking David Webb being annoying, Mo Bergman takes it upon himself to say that, everyone is just being obstructive for the sake of it and not pointing out that, 29 months of absolutely no attempts at accountability after this DOJ investigation was announced.
Yeah, there are zero, let's take the audience of this meeting out of the meeting. Let's pretend there was no one there besides the 3 members of the standing committee and the chief, and the clerk or whatever. And hey, that may be our reality soon enough.
Yeah.
But the number of probing questions asked by this standing committee during this entire meeting, zero. Not one. No one asks a single probing question except for Tom and John.
Right. Tom and John asked probing questions. And Kate Toomey just said, thank you for your opinion, which is very insulting to the questioners. But it's because she doesn't have an answer, because she doesn't see her job as to be intellectually versed in this material. She just understands her job to be unequivocal support of the police. And in a realpolitik sense, she's exactly fucking right. Because there are all sorts of rewards for treating your council job that way. And there are all sorts of consequences for actually trying to reform the police department.
Yeah, and I guess I want to sort of spell out, I've been thinking about the dynamic at play here since we had Tom and John on a few weeks ago. And, I've been really thinking about the way that they talked about the dynamic and the way that they feel about the department as an entity, the city council as an entity, and the chief as the leader of the entity of the police department. And they seem to think that for an internal hire, the chief that we have right now, Chief Saucier, was the best guy we could have from the inside to run the department in a professional way. And I kind of agree with them on that. My thoughts on, the larger, what should the structure be taken aside, I agree with them on that. And I also, I trust their instincts on that immensely.
Yeah.
And so now what we have set up here really, though, is they've talked about it perfectly. You've taken this chief, who both of them support, by the way, and put him at the top of a failing structure, a structure that has no accountability within it. Because, Kate Toomey doesn't just take Chief Saucier's calls. She takes the calls from probably a lot more often from Tony Petroni and, the rest of the numbskulls that are running the unions, the patrolmen's unions.
Right.
And that is the dynamic that's at play here.
Yeah. Yeah. The the rabid dog that we've talked about and I've written about that was on display at that first meeting is like, it's a little bit reductive to call it the police in toto, even though most of the time I feel like it's not useful to like get out ahead of it and make distinctions like and say like not all cops, because it is an institution that allows for this rot. But it's like inside of it there's a push and a pull, and the real bad apples are the police unions, are, you know, Rick Cipro, Anthony Petroni, everything sort of cascading down from that. And it's Rick Cipro that Kate Toomey has like a one-on-one texting relationship with, who has texted during the meetings to like get advice on stuff. And the really prescient criticism that Tom's making there is that this chief, who, you know, it seems like he might probably be a little better than Sergeant, low bar, but yeah. But he's being put in a position where I think he used the term like, this is a good man being put in a position where he's sitting on top of like untreated rot and the building is going to collapse under him. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's actually very, very prescient analysis. And in terms of probing questions, I don't think you could be asking a better one than that right now.
Yeah.
But Mo Bergman says, we're not asking probing questions here. We're making political statements. When literally, like, if Tom's analysis is right, and it's definitely hard won, he knows his stuff, like, that's so much more probing and so much more oversight and so much better and richer inquiry than Mo Bergman's big fat zero of doing nothing. But we'll play a little bit more of this out.
Yeah, it's disappointing. This is, instead of asking probing questions, this is turned into political statements.
This is all political.
I'm sorry, Bergman, are police not political?
Excuse me, we will not have back and forth by anybody in this meeting.
Madam Chair, one of the most disappointing things is some of the members of the public who demand transparency never mention they have an ongoing lawsuit against the City of Worcester Police Department as a form of bias in their presentation. So if I may continue, Madam Chair.
Yes, you may.
Interruption.
Yes,
Donnie
you may.
fucking Cochran over
Please,
here.
can we?
Oh my God. So that's Mo Bergman taking it right down to like a catty, nasty personal level. And that's the only bit of probing he does the entire meeting. And it's into, an annoying guy who gets into, trouble a lot for that. But like, it's just it's embarrassing. It's pathetic that Mo Bergman did that.
It really is. And
Taking a pot shot at like just some freaking kid, right?
I just think it's funny. I mean, we all know Mo has this reflexive need to be like, hey, I am a lawyer. Let me show you my lawyerly line of attack. But he's so fucking bad at it. And it's like, yeah, you know, you are getting what you deserve, Mo Bergman. Like you should be like in a catty argument with David Webb. Like that is actually like the level that you're at.
So Mo Bergman continues here.
Well, I don't know if we need somebody to gavel this person down, but I'll speak and we'll see what happens. There's an opportunity to have a question and answer period here. I see several members of the public who have used their time to criticize the police department. We don't, which is their right, but as you correctly noted, Madam Chair, our role
They were literally
is
defending
not
the chief.
discipline. Our role is not to make judgments.
Wait, hold on.
Our role is not to make judgments.
Our role is not to make judgments. Interesting. What the shifting goalposts of what a city councilor is and should do. So city councilors overseeing police department don't make any judgments. Got it.
As far as whether that report is true or not true, our report is to our job Excuse me.
You're not recognized. You do that again, and you'll have to leave.
God, dude.
I'm going to ask you to leave
This
the
was
room, please.
watching this live. I was
since you
so
won't respect
cringy.
the
It was so
committee.
annoying.
Let me know if you ask me to do that as the chair.
I'm asking as the chair to not do it again.
Please consider your responsibilities to the job as the chair.
Could we please remove the gentleman who consistently,
All right. Yeah. So
Black site.
yeah, David Webb, first person to ever get taken to the city council black site that we discussed a few episodes ago. Just kidding. I think he did get like sort of surrounded by cops and like pushed out. And then Mo Bergman had 5 more minutes left because remember, we only scheduled this to go on for an hour and a half. And he could have, maybe asked one probing question in those 5 minutes, something that was like really burning, like really top of mind, like thing that he really wanted to press the chief on. But he doesn't do that.
No, that is
He
not
says,
what happens.
he says,
Maybe we should just continue the meeting. 'cause this is-
you want to do that? Yeah. You know what? I think we're just going to continue this meeting at another date since this is an
5
issue.
minutes anyways.
we only have 5 minutes, and I can't ask
We
a
only have
question.
5 minutes left, and there are other people here who wanted to be able to speak. So, yes.
We'll just-
I think we're going to actually close the meeting.
Yeah. So stop there for a sec.
Yeah.
Because again, this is an audio medium, and we have a visual in front of us of Kate Toomey, chair, sitting in the middle, Louis Ojeda sitting to her left, and Mo Bergman sitting to her right. Kate, in this whole time of, should we just continue the meeting? Should we just gavel this down? We'll take this up at another time. Kate is turned towards Mo. Mo is turned towards Kate. Louis Ojeda is looking straight down at his desk. They've forgotten he's fucking there.
Yep.
There are 3 members of a deliberative body, and Kate and Mo are deciding together what they're going to do about this meeting that Louis is the 3rd public official at. It's
And they're just
wild.
totally disrespecting him.
They are completely ignoring his existence.
Yeah. And that's like sort of like the attitude that that chews up and spits out people like David Webb, right? Because they have this just deeply ingrained and entrenched like culture of contempt for the public. So going up against that and demanding that you be respected is just a surefire way to drive yourself crazy, because they really do. They do not operate deliberatively as a democratic body in any way. It's like a mob.
And even with a member of their own body, like taking aside how they treat the public, there is a guy there who is just as much on this standing committee as those 2 are, and they are completely ignoring him.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's because like there's just a soft power structure that is different from the elections about who has the power to dictate what, right? And this is Kate's committee. It's Kate and Mo's committee, and they went into this knowing that they were going to use their time to just give a blank oratory check to the police chief to speak the truth about this DOJ report, right? They don't care. They don't care about any member of the public that has been harmed by the Worcester Police Department, and that it's indicative in the way that Kate talked about how the sex assault allegations were harmful to some police officers and their family, right? Like, how do you just write off everyone but the police like that? It's crazy. It's like these moments are where you see the contours of like the American police state, right? Like,
Yeah.
That
Kate Toomey at some point prior to this essentially says the Department of Justice, the entity, was not respectful Not professional. Excuse me.
Yeah, not professional. Yeah, and she talks about it like she has in the past or could prepare a 2-year long investigation of a police department when she's had a decade in a role where she could have conceivably done that, and has, we've seen what she's chosen to do. It's just like the term, the verbiage bootlicking is, in my opinion, a little passé. We need a new word for it. What is going on here is like a cult of personality. We see a depiction of a city hall oriented as a cult of personality around the people who actually have power in the city, right? And that is the police department. But more than that, it is the rabid sort of soft cultural center of the police department that everyone is fucking afraid of. And we know their names. We know where the bad apples are. And Kate Toomey sits in this seat and gets elected every year to do their business, to carry out their agenda. And, whether or not Paul Saucier is personally a member of that is up for debate. Tom Marino seems to think no. I don't know this way or that way, but he still has to work within the sort of confines of the road that they've laid out. So
yeah, he is not in a position. He's not in a position to be able to fix this problem. That is clear to me. They're not putting him in a position to be able to fix any problem. They're putting him in a position to basically force him to say, there actually isn't really a problem here, and to any extent that there was, we were already working on fixing it. So it's all good.
yeah,
and that's what he's going to have to run with, whether he likes it or not. That's the dynamic at play here. And yeah, it's people like Kate and the mayor who ultimately, and the city manager, who have set up that dynamic, and that is where the blame falls.
we see at the end of the meeting, the way that they were able to write off Tom and John their legitimate points, legitimate criticisms, and legitimate probing questions, because there was another stupid and annoying guy there that was of the same general opinion, and they took that and used it, and probably will effectively use it, to say that it was just a bunch of crazy activists that came out, and that automatically disqualifying, and that there's nothing to look at, and you can just write it all off, right? Like Kate did. She just went, well, thank you for your opinion. That's your opinion, right? And it's insulting to everyone involved.
Yeah, and we just listened to them do it. I mean, the end of what we just listened to is them being like, oh, we got a couple more minutes, but geez, we got this disruptive person here, so let's just close the meeting.
Yeah.
I guess we're done.
And regardless of whether they closed it or didn't, it doesn't matter, because they weren't going to do anything. This is a complete dead end. The public safety subcommittee is where police reform goes to die if it ever gets there in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think that may well be the last time we ever see the Department of Justice report get brought up in City Hall. I mean, I hope not, but it's certainly possible. It's certainly possible that that's the last time the chief is ever invited to come and speak on it. And I think that most of the real entrenched old guard political culture is going to take the chief's hour-long address as a case closed. See, nothing to worry about anymore, right? Which is unfortunate. It's another disappointment in a long line of disappointments for things in Worcester that could have could have changed things around and then didn't.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's we got this gift in this report, and unless there is a sort of a groundswell of popular opposition or a popular movement to try to bring this back up and hold them to account to this, they seem done and dusted with this. Like, it's the report was bad mostly, and the couple good points it made, we're working on those things, and that's it, the end.
Yeah, the Boston TV cameras are elsewhere. Case closed. That's good enough. Can you wrap up your comments? Well, Chris, I think that's probably a pretty good place to end it. Yeah, I think that for right now, because I think if we keep walking down this line of thought, we're gonna get nowhere but a dark place soon. So, but I mean, this was a meeting to save in a folder for future academic study. So I'm happy we took the time to go all the way through it, because really, like, there's so many threads in here to be pulled out. Fascinating meeting, stunning in its uselessness, right?
Yeah, but it really, I'm glad we talked about it. And number one, so hopefully people listening to this don't have to watch it. You can if you want, but you got the useful bits here. I think we've covered them. But also, yeah, just because it at the end of the day, it does illustrate the actual dynamic at play of where is power pushing and pulling from with regards to the police department, and what can we expect? And where if from anywhere is pressure on the police department to reform and change. And the answer is there isn't any. And the way that we can change that is by changing the structure of city government. It's by changing council. It's by changing the manager and those sorts of things. And if you can't do that, there's really that's the place you have to start. Without that, you got nowhere to go. So
right,
eyes on the prize.
It's not a war. Or a battle, or whatever. It's not a struggle that will be won in public comment.
No.
It's just like we saw the limits of that tonight. The best public comment in the world, someone like Mo Bergman is going to automatically write it off because someone next to you said something stupid one time. So it's a dead end. It can seem daunting, the amount that has to change, but freedom is an endless struggle, endless meeting. Freedom is chipping away at it. So, like, you gotta just kind of settle in for doing as much as you can to push your cause forward, and accepting that you probably won't get there in your lifetime.
Yep. Yeah. And, get out there and talk to those city council candidates that you think are potentially decent, effective people, and school committee, because we're going to be looking for a new superintendent again, as we talked about at the beginning. Yep. That's the best. If you are feeling hopeless, that is the best advice I can give you right now, is to roll up your sleeves and do some municipal work.
All right, Bill here from the editing desk, and what I am about to share with you might be my finest artistic achievement ever in my life, and it is a labor of love.
Okay. You wrap up. 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 Thank you. You wrap up. 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 Thank you. You wrap up. You wrap up. You wrap up. You wrap up. Thank you. You wrap up.
I didn't see anything on October 20th.
Thank you.
Senior tax work-off program.
You wrap up.
I didn't see anything on
You wrap up. You wrap up.
Tax work-off program. Senior tax work-off program.
You wrap up.
I didn't see anything on
You wrap up. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, tax work-off program. Yes, Mr. Chairman, tax